My tip today for you has to do with reading tea leaves and a little bit about divination, one of my favorite things. So, given that it's kind of a cool October afternoon, perfect for a cup of tea, I thought I would talk a little bit then about reading the leaves. If this is something that you already do, hopefully I can give you something little bit of info that you haven't tried before or thought of before. And if it's something that it's new to you and you want to give it a try, I'm really excited for you. It's a lot of fun to do. Uh, it's also really accessible. You don't have to have any particular tools. You don't have to have anything fancy. You don't even have to have a teacup. If you don't have loose leaf tea, you can always just tear open a bag of Lipton, right? I mean, you can use coffee grounds. So be creative. I'm a big fan of using what you have and not having to go out and get something special. So I collect. I've been gifted a lot of really fun antique teacups and different pretty decorative things that I love. This is one of my favorites with the pretty rose design on it, and it has playing cards on the inside, so you can get a little, like a little bit of a double whammy with divination, depending on where your tea leaves fall in here. I have a couple of divinatory cups like this, but you know what? My favorite things to use are just plain teacups. I like, you can grab it, this one because of the rose hips and the pretty fall colors. So I decided I'm going to use this one today. So when you're reading leaves, I'll kind of let you know what I do. This is not a rule set in stone. These are guidelines, really. I think the main thing is use your own intuition. Set your intention for what you're asking for, how you're going to read. When I read, I tend to hold the cup toward me and use the handle as a reference. I start with this, usually, and work my way around the cup clockwise. I've noticed that when symbols are facing or moving seemingly in a clockwise direction, it tends to tell me that the action, the intuition that I'm getting is something that has to do with a forward motion. So it's something about to happen or it's happening now. If there's the opposite, where a leaf might be facing counterclockwise, then I generally look at it as it's something to do with the past or something that's moving away from you. Again, it just kind of depends. And like I said, I tend to start at the handle and go clockwise. You don't have to do that. Sometimes I don't do that. It just depends. If I see a symbol in there that just jumps out at me, is screaming at me, is like, hey, pick me, I'm going to start with that one and then work from there. So like I said, guidelines, not rules. Use your intuition. I start with loose leaf tea. I like loose leaf tea, bigger teas, because I think I can get more shapes with them and more fun things can come out of them. So what I'll generally do to start, I should have my saucer because I always get messy, so I'll put this on the saucer. What I generally do is I grab some of the tea and I can hold on to it. I can put my intentions into it. I could ask for guidance or whatever I'm feeling I might need for that reading. Then I will crush it as I put it in there. I just kind of crush it up with my fingers a little bit and get some tea in the cup. I crush because, again, it just breaks leaves and adds hopefully some more interesting shapes. From there, gotta pour the tea. Don't worry about drinking the tea. If you're reading for you and you hate tea, or the person you're reading for hates tea, don't worry about it. Don't drink it. Don't force yourself. It's not necessary. I've done readings for people who aren't anywhere near me, just online. I don't even know who they are. I will do the tea leaves for them, start reading what the story is in the cup, and then I'll just type it out and send it. And that's always a little bit weird in a sense, because I don't know the person, I don't see the person, I don't know what they look like, I have their name, and that's it. It's fascinating how the feedback I get has always been like they're amazed, and then it's spot on. Tea is and tea leaves are really really interesting to work with because they tell a story. It's like I'm reading a little book or a chapter in someone's book of their life. And maybe it's because I'm an artist and I work in pictures, so it could be a little bit easier for me. But it comes to people in different ways. That's one thing I've noticed. Sometimes a person will look in the cup and use the negative space. Sometimes they'll see pictures in the leaves themselves. Sometimes you don't see anything, but you get some sort of knowing that just comes into your head. So stay open to what your way of doing things is. So for reading leaves, I put a little too much water in here. Should have paid attention. That's what I get for chatting and talking and pouring. You generally want to have about, I'm going to guess maybe, yeah, I'm guessing this is coming from someone who doesn't measure. I don't even measure when I bake half the time, so it's a risk. I'm going to guess 2 tablespoons-ish of liquid in the bottom before you kind of swirl your cup and dump it. I poured a little too much in here, so I'm going to steal my other cup here and pour a little bit out. This way I'm not going to hopefully throw tea all over myself in the sofa here as I'm working. Yeah, who am I kidding? I'll probably do that anyway. And like I said, I tend to get messy. Okay, so that's about 2 tablespoons-ish. So you may have your own way of doing this. You want to swirl the cup, but the idea is just to get some leaves up and around the edges. There's no, you don't have to say like, I'm going to do this 3 times, or I'm going to do this 10 times, or I have to do it one way and then the other. It doesn't matter. just get some leaves up there, get a little bit messy. Do it until you feel like something inside you says, that's good. You say, that's good. And then you quickly, and hopefully not too messy, turn it over onto your saucer and just let it drain a little bit. I will tell you a tip that you can read the saucer too. So if you have extra questions, sometimes you find the answer in the saucer, not the cup. I find this really helpful if it's, okay, I don't know how many, if anybody out there read palms. My grandma read palms, so I know a little bit. But generally speaking, your dominant hand, like I'm right-handed, so I would read the lines in my hand, and this shows me what I'm living. Now, if I look at my left hand, it shows me what my potential is, or what another path I could have taken, or maybe perhaps will still take. Who knows? Same thing with the cup and the saucer. So the saucer generally shows the path not taken or the potential. So maybe you're asking a question. You say, if I'm doing everything as I go along, this will be the result. If I don't do that, what might happen? Then you look in your saucer. That could be the result. So there's little bit of fun things to play with. Also, like I said, what came to my mind, don't use what you have. You don't have a teacup, use a soup bowl. I've used styrofoam cups. You're it's in a divinatory emergency and you gotta have an answer to a question, and you're out and about, you're at a hotel, you're at a coffee shop. What do? You can use a styrofoam cup and grab a tea bag, tear it open, and throw it in. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to have anything fancy. So when you're reading the leaves and you look inside here, now I don't know, I'm gonna hold this right up close to you. Yeah, can you see it? I'm sure you can see all this itty bitty leaves in there. Well, they may look like blobs. Sometimes they look like blobs to me too. Or you can start to see shapes with them. And my other suggestion for you is when you see something that is identifiable, let me pick something out in here. Like, this looks like, oh yeah, great. Picked a good one. Looks like a llama. Um, yeah, I don't know a lot about llamas, so it's a great one to start with. But here's the thing. I wrote a book on reading tea leaves. I'm working on another one right now that goes into much more detail and depth with that. But one thing I did not do is I did not include a glossary of symbols and meanings. And the reason for that is that I really encourage people to use their own intuition and to allow your personal experiences to bring you some sort of wisdom or knowledge about what that symbol may mean. If you see a symbol of a dog and you're terrified of dogs, then you would interpret that differently than someone who sees a symbol of a dog and they think dog is man's best friend. So there are lots of things that can be interpreted in so many ways. I just didn't think it would be wise to put a glossary in and say, this means that. Life is not black and white. And the same thing with divination. It's really important that you begin to trust yourself and trust what you see and trust your own stories as you're reading other people's stories. You know, I one time saw a skunk in there and I immediately thought of Pepe Le Pew. You know, often skunks will make me think of setting boundaries or perhaps balance because they're black and white. I thought of Pepe Le Pew. So who is he? He's a womanizer basically. He's this crazy cartoon skunk. I hopefully most of you are familiar with. And that interpretation was relevant to the person that I was reading for because of a relationship she was in at the time. So it made sense. So go with your instinct, go with your gut. Don't necessarily go with, I open up this dictionary or open up my computer and look up this symbol and it means this and that's it. It doesn't happen like that. So getting back to llama. I know llamas make really funny noises. I learned that once when I was in the zoo. I couldn't figure out. I thought a child was throwing up somewhere. Turns out it was the llama making this bizarre noise. And when I think of llamas, I think of pack animals and carrying a lot of weight and being helpful to man. And, perhaps this is more alpaca than llama, but, you can get the wool from them and make clothing and warm things. Generally, though, what I'm going with, because this is my cup and my leaves, so this will be like my reading, so you might know a little bit more about me now than I had intended. I'll be careful what I say. But when I see the llama, and then I think about being a pack animal and the weight that people carry, I know that I tend to carry weight of things that is past time to let go. The good thing about this llama is that it's moving counterclockwise. So that helps me understand that, all right, I'm doing this. This is something I'm working on. I'm working on letting go of things and letting go of ideas, attitudes, indoctrinations, things like that. It could even be, I need to clean out my closet. I need to let go of something. So lots of those things can be meaningful as well. I know for me, pretty sure it's metaphor. Not that I have to clean my closet. Yeah, some things, but that I'm working on letting go of the things of the past and these things that I need to recognize that I'm carrying that I no longer need to carry. So that is something that I think will be helpful for me. So see how there's like, you can interpret this stuff so many different ways. And that's why it's super important to trust your intuition with this. And I have to say that's probably the most difficult thing. When you're reading for yourself or for others, trust in the information that you're getting. Trust that it's okay to put that out there, and hopefully you don't, I think that's the thing. You don't want to be humiliated. You don't want to think, I'm wrong, I'm going to be embarrassed. You know what? You will be. These things happen. And the more you do readings, you're not always going to get it right. Your interpretation may be off. A lot of times I will see something and I think it means this, and it really kind of does, but maybe not really, until that person starts to talk to me. And then that symbol makes sense. I'm like, oh, that's what it meant, not what I said it meant. So, I mean, these things happen. There can be times when you're totally shut down. And I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you as readers out there, no matter what you're doing, doesn't it be cards, whatever, you throwing bones, whatever your divinatory method is. Sometimes you're with somebody and you get nothing. And I have to say that's a really weird feeling when that happens. I've had it happen to me. I sat down with somebody and I was reading tea leaves and it's like I couldn't see anything. I was totally black. Like I couldn't, nothing made sense. I couldn't see any pictures. It was very, very weird. And I almost felt a little bit panicky, because you're set up almost like you need to perform for somebody. And that's a really bad way of going into a reading. And it puts a lot of pressure on you as a reader, because this is not a science. This is intuition. This is really fluid and things are always changing. And I think it's important to let that person know that what you are seeing can happen if everything stays the same. But what if that person makes changes in their life? What if that person chooses differently? Things change. And that's what's great, is you can read the direction that someone is heading in, but you can also give them options as to how to tweak that direction or how to avoid something that you could see maybe coming up for somebody in the future. So I think my tips for you today is to stay open. Stay open. Don't lock yourself into specific interpretations. And the biggest thing is to trust your gut. That's probably the hardest thing, but the most important thing. And it just comes by doing it, by living it, by being embarrassed sometimes. The thing about humiliation, I think, as difficult as it is to go through, if you allow it to bring you to a place of humility, then that's a beautiful thing and that's a good thing. So for all my diviners out there, keep at it, keep doing it, because I think in this world we're in right now, people sometimes can feel very lost. We ourselves can feel very lost, and it's good to be able to enjoy a cup of tea and maybe get a few answers to some of your questions along the way too. So enjoy and drink tea and use this as an excuse to make tiny tea cakes and little sandwiches. And now I'm going off on a tangent here, and maybe I should do something on cooking, because I'm starting to get hungry thinking about that. Have a tea party. Have fun, have tea. And I'll talk to you next Wednesday.